Hey everybody, welcome back to another live stream of the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devendra Hardwar. This morning, I'm joined by one new face and our regulars. We've got Alex Wilhelm, Editor-in-Chief of TechCrunch Plus here. Hey Alex, how's it going?
I'm fantastic. I'm exhausted. I think there's a couple of things to talk about, but thank you for having me.
So many things, no problem. And as always, Deputy Editor of Reviews, Sherlyn Lowe. Hey Sherlyn, what's up? Hello, good morning. Sherlyn's just waving.
I'm just like, wait, I'm like, wait, is that my title? I guess so, yeah.
I guess so. Yeah,
like,
well, yeah, because Devendra messed it up last week, so...
Sherlyn has gone through many titles, and you know what? Some of us, Sherlyn, have had just one title, you know, so keep track. And
my title is, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Hello, Ben. Hello, Sherlyn. What's your title, Sherlyn?
My title is Official Ass Kicker. That's what it is.
Oh, I thought it was Mobile Queen. Remember when we talked about that?
Oh, no, it was, what was it? Someone said mobile. Yeah, one time, I think V said it a while back. Anyway.
No, I definitely called you the Mobile Queen. And then you got so flustered on camera. You're like, oh my God. Finally,
oh my God.
I've made it.
Let's see what the chat is going to give me as a better title.
You're going to crowdsource your job title? That's
yes. Sherlyn, we did it before.
How we go?
Braver than I am.
Yeah,
we've got Raging
our chat's pretty good usually.
Deprogrammer 9, Sammy. Hi, Sammy.
Sammy already being pushy. Come on, Sammy. It's been 30 seconds. God damn. Guillaume, hello. Lucky Dog Podcast. Hello.
I want to address what Sammy said because Sammy's also like sent a few like DMs about like literally wanting to like work for Engadget. And I'm just gonna say when we hire, we do job postings, so maybe look out for those and apply. That's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do. Submit a writing sample.
Number one tip for any job: do not annoy your potential employer.
Yeah, true. Also that.
That's. I've had to tell this to many people in New York media. But hello, Chiming Chung. Hello, everybody.
And hi to Lucky Dog Podcast, who says they finally made it to a live stream. Hi. And yes, hi to Jiming Chong.
Hello. This is a special one because we got Alex on.
Yes.
Hello.
Well, we don't know if it's special in a good way yet. It could go in reverse.
It's going to go.
It's definitely a prickly topic.
Yeah. To warn all of you in the chat, we're going to be talking about Silicon Valley Bank and the collapse of that. And Alex is like a financial, news genius. So we'll tap Alex's brain.
Don't you love Devendra's titles for everyone?
Yeah.
I just what I would prefer is more kind of a modest. Like Alex has been covering this, keeping expectations low.
I mean, listen. I've known you long enough, Alex, to know what you're good at, and I also know what I am an idiot child at. So that's my title.
This is why I read Engadget whenever I need to buy something. So yeah.
Hello. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Let's get right into the show, and we will take some time for Q&A in between sections. Alex, if you want to take time to answer questions from the chat, you can. Otherwise, you can run after the segment if you need to. Okay.
Okay, so long-time viewers know what we're about to do. If you're new to viewing and the chat, what we do is I'm going to count down from 3. At the end of 3, we're all going to make a sound. You can clap or snap your fingers.
Yeah, even those of you who have us in the background, just playing in the background, this is your time. I know a lot of you do this, so.
Yeah, you could just be walking around your house. Just 3, 2, 1, we'll do a clap, and then we're going to be quiet for like a few seconds, and then we're actually going to get into the podcast taping. We can't talk to you while we're doing the podcast taping, but I promise we'll take some time to talk directly to chat during this live stream. So counting. Oh, and chat, if you want to put clap emojis or anything in the chat, that's always fun.
It's a group effort.
Counting down from 3, 2, 1. Ooh, good. And some silence. If you're actively watching, not just have us in the background, hit that thumbs up. It helps other people see us. Okay, we're done with silence. Let's get to it.
Oh, I can breathe.
Go in. Yeah, please breathe. Please take a sip of water. Silence your devices.
Yeah. Take a sip of water. Yeah, silence your devices.
Yeah, where is my phone? Shoot. Yeah. Well, I guess my phone is not next to me for once, so nothing burned down, please.
Some mobile queen you are, Sherlyn. God.
I know. Yeah. Oops.
Okay. Everyone's recording. I think we're good to go.
Yep.
All right. Let's go in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, hold on.
Yep.
Sorry.
What's up?
Oh,
recording the Zoom?
Yeah, Julio, can you give me
yes,
we're streaming by now. It's too late.
Oh well.
Yeah, we don't want the stream to hear the Zoom thing. Okay, let's just go.
It doesn't matter. Okay, whatever. Do you have another local recording, Ben? I could start one if you need to.
No, I'll start one.
Yeah, please do.
Oh, okay. No. Julio just let me record. So yes, stream.
It's fine
sorry,
if they hear it.
Okay. Recording in progress.
Hello.
Cool. We use Zoom for this.
Come on, this is the TikTok generation. We are used to robot voices.
Yeah, that's true.
Zoomers.
Zoomers.
Okay,
Hello.
let's get to it.
Okay. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devendra Hardawar.
I'm Deputy Editor Sherlyn Lowe.
This week we'll be chatting about the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank and what that means for the overall tech ecosystem. We've got a great guest to talk about that. We've also got a bunch of new AI news. It feels like every week there's more AI news. And can you believe there's another GPT version already?
Wow.
This week, GPT-4 is here. So we'll be diving into all of that. As always, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes. Drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. You can also catch us on our live stream, typically Thursday mornings around 10:30 a.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel. Come join us. It's a fun time. We'll do Q&As, and sometimes we show off gadgets. So we don't typically talk about banks, especially something like Silicon Valley Bank here on the Engadget Podcast. But there was a lot of news this weekend. I don't know if you've seen a headline. It basically progressed from being like, oh, this bank is in trouble to, oh my God, this bank has collapsed to please save us, say all the VCs. And by Sunday, the federal government was like, don't worry. All deposits are fine. You will all be fine. There was a lot that happened over the span of a couple days, and joining us to talk about all that is Alex Wilhelm, editor-in-chief at TechCrunch Plus and co-host of the Equity Podcast. Hey, Alex, how's it going?
I'm good. I feel like I've been in a bit of a hurricane, center of it, for the last week. So I'm kind of like recovering in a way.
You're like, there's somebody with a flashlight on their head just guiding us all through this hurricane, because I feel like you of all people can help make sense of what the heck happened here. So can you just like sketch out real quick, like, so what is Silicon Valley Bank and what happened last week that basically set everybody's hair on fire?
Yeah, so Silicon Valley Bank is aptly named. It is a bank in Silicon Valley, and it's not just named for its geographic location, but also for its client base. And so Silicon Valley Bank was the bank of choice for a great number of venture capitalists and a bunch of startups. So a lot of the companies you read about that are building kind of the new tech and the new gadgets that TechCrunch and Engadget cover had their accounts there. And there was a very kind of positive relationship between investors and startups and the bank itself, because VCs would invest in startups, startups would bank at Silicon Valley Bank, and because all the money was there, SVB was kind of loaning money to startups in ways that other banks really wouldn't, because a lot of software companies don't have assets. And so Silicon Valley Bank was kind of a tech forward place to put your money. And it was critical.
And a lot of startups don't make revenue, right? They're not making money, right? So you need a bank that's be like, okay, I got you until you become a unicorn or something, right?
Well, until you're, sufficiently large that other banks might let you kind of borrow from them, or you can issue bonds or raise more money, whatever. But it was a very important kind of organ in the startup ecosystem. And then last Wednesday, after trading, it kind of closed, Silicon Valley Bank announced a number of financial moves. They were going to issue some stock, take a hit on some investments, and essentially Thursday morning, things looked rough. And the stock price was down like 20%, 25%. And so I looked into this and then missed the point entirely. I was like,
I saw you tweeting about this, being like, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah,
this seems weird. Yeah.
Over your morning coffee, suddenly financial contagion, that's what you do. On Thursday, this went from what the hell is going on to everyone freaking out. And then Silicon Valley Bank got on a Zoom with all its venture capital customers and said, hey, everything's fine. Don't worry. There's no problem. And then the crisis precipitated by everyone pulling their money out of the bank. And suddenly,
why does saying there is no problem make everybody be like, oh my God, there is a problem?
Well, I think the issue was that the problem had been building for a very long time and people hadn't noticed. And I know this is the Engadget crew, so I don't want to get too deep into the financials, but essentially, as we probably all know, in the last couple of years, startups raised a bunch of money. They put that money into their accounts at Silicon Valley Bank. And until rates went up, that money didn't actually have any yield. And so Silicon Valley Bank invested that money into long-term assets. Then interest rates went up, the value of bonds went down, and suddenly Silicon Valley Bank was sitting on a lot of unrealized losses that hadn't actually occurred yet, but everyone could see kind of coming. And so they tried to shake that up with their financial moves. And then everyone realized the state of the bank. And then they yanked $42 billion out of it in a 24 or 36-hour period. And suddenly it was insolvent.
This seems like a problem. One thing I want to make clear here is, did Silicon Valley Bank actually do anything wrong? I feel like they put a lot of money into long-term bonds. Everyone says bonds are safe. My parents say bonds are safe. And why was this a problem? Was it because the interest rates just made it a bad investment over time?
It made it a bad investment relatively quickly, and the bank moved very late to correct its overall position. And so there's been discussions about how some investors, some venture capitalists back in November were saying, hey, this looks like a problem. That's because they were looking at the scale of unrealized losses at Silicon Valley Bank that only increased as rates kept going up. And so Silicon Valley Bank kind of acted a little bit late. It had a poor communication strategy and essentially lost trust. And if you're a bank in a fractional reserve banking system, which is what America has, trust is, kind of more valuable than gold. And so when they went on this call to tell people, don't panic. I mean, if you're on a boat and there's water coming into the windows and the captain says, everything's fine, you go straight for the lifeboat.
That totally makes sense. Sherlyn, do you have any questions like as we are diving into this topic?
I mean, immediately it's like, what kind of experience do the people who are running SVB have? Like, what a history, what is their origin here, Alex, do you know?
Well, interestingly enough, there's been some notes that have come out about who wasn't there. Apparently, they didn't have a chief risk officer for quite a lot of last year and didn't really tell anybody.
Okay.
And you would think risk, right? At a bank, Sherlyn,
Yeah,
you kind of want to have that. But there's a question of experience and decision making, but also there's a question of regulation. After the 2008 crisis, which us millennials, zillennials, and Gen Xers all recall as a great part of our career progression.
Yeah, we really grew into that, didn't we? Yeah.
This is what, our fourth financial crisis, something like that. Yeah, brutal. But anyways, we put a lot of rules on banks, so this stuff wouldn't happen. And then in the Trump administration, a lot of that was rolled back. And so banks like Silicon Valley Bank, that are not the biggest institutions, actually had less regulatory oversight. And so they could get a little bit more sideways before anyone noticed.
So like mid-sized banks, right? Like it depends on the amount of assets. They're not small local banks, but did they, I remember hearing stories that the Silicon Valley Bank kind of was a smaller bank for a while. And then they also kind of blew up as everybody was getting funding over the last few years too, right? Like that must be part of it. Yeah.
I mean, venture capital fundraising, like VCs raising money for themselves, went up dramatically. The pace of money going into startups went up dramatically. And so suddenly their deposit base expanded greatly.
Right.
And ironically, I was actually prepping for this morning. If I understand it correctly, they would have been under stricter regulatory oversight starting this year because they reached the sufficient size. But the problem is they weren't last year when this was all kind of kicking off. It's a hot mess. And there could have been leadership. There could have been leadership in the VC community to say, look, we know this is not good, but let's all be calm, leave our money where it is. Don't break the bank, help them through this crisis.
Yeah. What did the top VCs do, Alex? What did Peter Thiel do?
Well, it appears, and we're still sorting this out exactly. There's a lot of reporting still going on about who was first and who got their money out and so forth. But they were like, hey, portfolio companies, maybe you don't want to keep your money at this bank that we think is in trouble. So everyone, essentially, they did a DDoS attack on the bank deposits. Right. And very quickly, it precipitated into a crisis. And then, as you said, over the last weekend, as everyone, cried tears over suddenly possibly losing some of their money, the government stepped in and said, whoa, calm down. We're going to backstop these deposits and everything's going to be okay. And depending on your politics, you have a perspective on that. I'm not going to get into FDIC insurance and so forth. But essentially, the government was like, we're not going to let this spread. And mostly that's worked.
Okay. It did seem hilarious to see people like Peter. I don't know if Peter Thiel was very vocal, but Jason Calacanis was certainly vocal on Twitter with his all caps shouting about this. And also a lot of other VCs saying, you cannot let this bank fail. Please save us. This is the industry big on libertarianism, big on, we'll take care of ourselves. We are the gods among the society, and you government are just like old, stodgy, useless people. We don't need you anymore. Turns out they really did need government regulation and government support here, right?
You're pointing to a very important, I think, PR issue for these companies, because, if you think about the last 10 years, what have we heard from startups in Silicon Valley? Well, that they're the future, that they're changing things, that the government's too slow, et cetera, et cetera. And then suddenly they end up upside down on fire in the ditch and they go run into the government. Now, you could argue that it is a key function of government to take care of the banking industry and kind of make sure that it works. Valid. But it's also true that you can create a PR issue for yourself. And I think one problem that we have is that, Devendra, you just brought up Peter Thiel and Jason Calacanis. And I know Jason. I actually kind of like Jason.
He's a great media character, but
he's charming in person. Yeah. But the VCs that I talk to, the founders that I talk to, mostly are not the ones that you hear about in the news. They're just really smart, nice folks. And so I think what VC should do to correct this issue they have is maybe swap out the voices a little bit. Bring on Elliot from Bessemer, right? A lovely person, or just someone who's not the same four guys from the All In podcast.
Yeah, maybe don't let the All In podcast lead the conversation. How about that?
And that's on the VC community. I will say that I don't have a lot of patience for libertarians who when they have an issue after mocking other people's bailouts and financial assistance, demand help for themselves now, and then complain that the government isn't moving fast enough when they fix the problem over a weekend. That's pretty infuriating.
I agree with that.
I also read that SVB was basically big on pushing against keeping those regulations, right, in 2018. Like, part of the reason they were the ones that helped get rid of the regulations that got them in so much trouble.
Yep.
Okay.
This is why. Okay. Would you let your kids grade their own homework? No, you would not do that. That's ridiculous. And so to me, this is an example of hubris, which is a very human thing. Let's be clear. That's just straight up humanity. But the reason we have regulation is to combat our base instincts as people, so that way we can't end up in situations like this. And I'm peevish that the three of us, we have checking accounts, I presume. Sure. And so we are part of banks that pay into FDIC insurance, which is what's kind of backstopping all of this. So it's a bailout bailout light, bailout adjacent financial move, whatever you want. But it's irksome to me that folks say, not for me, and then demand,
please save me.
Yeah.
It's a sort of reminder of when maybe teenagers are very much like, I'm independent, I know my life, don't tell me what to do, Dad. Hey Dad, I crashed my car into the ditch. Please. So, is your AAA membership still active? I've
actually had to have that conversation with my parents. I woke them up one night because I had slid my car at 2 miles an hour because it was icy, and I just went into the ditch, and I had to walk home in the snow, and I had to wake them up and tell them, hey, my car's in a ditch.
That is part of growing up, right? I'm interested in that backstop too, Alex. Like, is this? They said, I remember reading the announcement. They said this did not involve taxpayer money to basically make the depositors whole. So where is that money actually coming from?
So we all pay into the Deposit Insurance Fund. I forget the technical name for this. That's part of the FDIC, which is an independent agency of the federal government. So it's not taxpayer money. Like, your federal income tax is not going to this, but your participation in the banking industry is. And that's where it gets kind of nuancy. So folks that want to preserve their kind of libertarian creds are saying this is not a bailout. Politicians that don't want to say we bailed out rich people are saying this is not a bailout.
Right.
But it's kind of a bailout. This is one of those war crash tests for how you want to think about it. And so there's not going to be a single kind of clear answer that everyone's going to agree on. But it is money that wasn't theirs that is going to help them. So to me, and given that the money comes from an element of the government, of which is kind of, it's our elected body, to me it feels, bailout-ish.
Kind of, just a bit. To be clear, I believe the investors, right, the people making money from SVB are not being bailed out, right? Like, they are kind of taking this hit.
Yeah. So if you own stock in SVB, oops. Which is fair, right? I mean, it's an investment. There should be risk in there. The question is, if FDIC insurance. So Sherlyn, your checking account has insurance of up to $250K, right? I don't know if you float that much cash in your checking account. I don't. So you and I never have to think about this.
Just a bit shy of that.
$245,000, $246,000. Yeah, but we're always told that that's where insurance stops. So people often have multiple accounts if they have excess cash to protect themselves. And so suddenly, if we're going to say in a moment of a crisis that cap doesn't exist and it's actually unlimited, then there isn't really a cap, and then no one's going to behave as if there is a cap. And so there's a moral hazard risk. This favorite talking point of conservatives who want to not give school lunches to children for bankers in this case, and about how they're going to act when they realize that all they have to do is make a big enough mess and someone else will clean it up for them.
Yep. Gotta love it. Where was the Federal Reserve in all this? Because I feel like maybe they should be keeping an eye. Maybe the CEO of Silicon Valley Bank shouldn't be a part of the San Francisco Federal Reserve too, right?
I actually don't know if he was. That might be news to me. But the Fed has regional banks that have.
I read he was on the board, which to me seems ridiculous. But yeah.
I've known people on these boards, and they tend to be people who are active in the business world. And I think the idea there is you want to have folks who have the pulse of the economy and what's going on to provide insight and input. It is very embarrassing in this case when it turns out that the fox is in the hen house and was actually the hen the whole time.
Yeah.
You know,
the hen has gone rabid and is now eating the faces of it.
I don't actually know if that analogy works, but it felt really fun to say. So I just kind of wanted to go circular on that. I have been watching a lot of farming television lately.
Let's go to simpler lives. There's a great YouTube channel about I think a couple in somewhere in Central Europe that is just I'm going to spend 20 minutes making baklava. I'm going to watch every step of making baklava. It's amazing. It's great. So, Alex, where are we now? Silicon Valley Bank has failed. The depositors are fine, but also Signature Bank in New York also was kind of like a victim as well, as part of all this, and that was more of a crypto bank. Can you give us a quick rundown of what happened there?
I think the answer is no one's entirely sure. Yeah. It was taken over by the government due to systemic risks, essentially. And there's conspiracy theories rampant that this is just a way for the government to clamp down on crypto and to,
Yeah, because crypto has done nothing wrong recently.
No, not a single time. ICOs, totally legal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the first crypto bank to be taken over. If you recall, there was Signature and also Silvergate, and so this is the second time we've seen this. My guess, and this is just my current hunch, I've been pretty wrapped up in just straight Silicon Valley land, is that it made some more exotic moves and ended up upside down by accident. And it's a smaller failure. It's still a large failure in historic terms. But I think it matters the most just because it was a crypto on-ramp for normal money to kind of make its way into the world of decentralized monies. And so to lose kind of both of those well-known on-ramps in the same time period is brutal for crypto. It could limit inflows, which could harm asset prices and so forth. So your NFTs might not have as much juice in them, essentially. But in terms of what the market is talking about, in terms of what the traditional finance world cares about, it's Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic, and then for some reason Credit Suisse is also deciding to melt down right now at the same time. So
love it. Okay. I did see a report saying that the U.S. regulators are eyeing Friday bids for SVB and Signature Bank, so we may hear more about what's happening there. And that report also claims no crypto. The one rule if you buy Signature Bank is no crypto.
Yes. Yeah. So that means Binance will not buy it. But it does leave open a very interesting thing because the three of us work for the reconstituted Yahoo, which is owned by a collection of private equity funds under the umbrella of Apollo. And I heard that Apollo
we saw.
So there is a world in which
to be clear, Apollo. there was a story that the private equity firm that owns all of us is also looking at buying up SVB. So okay,
yeah. So our big parent company. So disclaimer.
Okay, while we're here, let's get in some trouble. Have you guys ever heard from Apollo? Because to me, they're like a ghost.
I don't think we directly.
No comment.
I don't know. I don't hear personally.
Who is this person? How did they get on my podcast?
Well, I mean, I know Yahoo exists, but who owns? If you try to figure out which funds own our parent company, good luck. I went through the filings. I had no idea.
I know. I've talked to Yahoo people. I've never talked to Apollo people, but you know what?
Yeah.
We are just a couple years away from talking about our ties to Verizon too, and it's always
every
one thing.
time.
It's one thing. We can never be totally free.
I joined TC in the AOL days, and then I left after we got sold by Verizon. No, just sold to Verizon, and then I came back and we were Verizon, and then now we're what you know what I want? I want media to suddenly become rich again, so that way we can all just
Do you think that's going to happen?
Just rich families. Rich families will save us all. That worked out well for the old publications back in the day. Sherlyn, do you have any questions about this stuff while we've got Alex?
No, I mean, I just everything that's happened, I agree, especially with what y'all said about the people who were complaining about bailouts before and then now are begging for one. I mean, I just think that that's so rich. And personally, I didn't hear about all of this until my chiropractor, who I've mentioned on this show before, on Tuesday, before the weekend stuff happened, was asking me, so what's up with the Silicon Valley Bank stuff? He was telling me that his friend worked there. I was like,
oh, I'm so sorry.
I don't know. I don't think anything's happening. Everything seems chill on my end. And he's like, I heard all the banks are in crisis. I was like, I didn't know. And so apparently I knew about this before everything melted down. And then I went and had a weekend and came back, everything is on fire. Kind of like that Community GIF. So
it's
great.
Totally.
Did you just say GIF?
Yeah.
I do say
listen,
GIF.
Alex, this is
GIF is the way it was pronounced.
Constant problem. Graphical interchange format.
Hard graphical
format.
No,
this is my favorite never-ending battle.
I love it.
I
Anything
know.
else you want to add, Alex? And also, like, what are you working on these days? Equity Pod, I know you guys are doing really well. I enjoy the show quite a bit.
Oh, thank you so much.
Everybody check out Equity Pod.
Yeah, I mean, I work at TechCrunch. This is my second stint. I've been there for, most of my adult life. I make the words on the screens. Sometimes I help other people do it. That's the gig. Mostly though, I'm just hanging out with my baby. That's my new project. Yeah, so
awesome.
I'm just trying to learn how to dad and work.
How to dad and read while baby is napping. Basically, you could be productive while the baby is napping and no other time.
Dude, yesterday, so the baby doesn't sleep anymore. She's just decided that she's over it. So yesterday, we just had like a multi-hour Taylor Swift sing-along, just trying to put this dang baby to sleep. It's brutal.
Just read her the regulatory reports about SVB.
No, then I wouldn't have a spouse. So you kind of balance. But anyways, I love y'all and I appreciate you bringing this to your audience. I know it's not the normal Engadget fare, but I think it really matters for the companies you do cover. So everyone, thank you for your patience with me, and you can now return to your regularly scheduled gadget programming. I heard there's space seats coming up.
Where can we find you on the internet? How about that?
Oh, I'm on Twitter mostly. My name's Alex and my Twitter handle is Alex. So come hang out there. And
you son of a gun.
Yeah,
you got the @Alex.
There's a story behind that, but it's too long for this riff. And also I have a little personal Substack where I write about life and shit. So if you want to be bored about what I'm doing on the weekends, there's that too.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex.
Oh my God. Now I want to start my own Substack.
Yeah.
Dude,
I mean, I've been wanting to.
It's fun.
Is it good? It's fun. I don't have time to write outside of work though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I love the idea.
How do you find the time to do that, Alex?
Well, since I got back from parental leave, my volume has gone down precipitously.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I started a podcast during my parental leave, so we just can't help
there you go.
That's aggressive.
Anyway,
that's what I need to do. I need to have a child and then get that parental leave.
Do we want to talk to chat? Like I think you can cut somewhere, Ben. But we can, if you want to ask.
So, okay, can you give me just a, thanks for being on the show, Alex.
We'll do that and we'll cut clean. Thanks so much for joining us, Alex. Hope to have you back on soon.
All right.
Okay,
so,
good. All right. So
I'm sure the chat room has questions. So
lots of,
there's a lot
hi
of
to
comments.
Banu, hi to, I just want to say hi to people who are here after we said the thing. So hi to Banu, Daniel Diaz joined us, Chooch also, and Kavi Raj, all, and Freddie who said they made it finally. So hi, thanks for joining us. And Marley loves film.
Hello.
So I think there were questions. I know that Ben, you were banking them.
Chat, Alex, if you want to see
banking them, yeah.
I feel like you're not a dad, but you've got the dad jokes.
Yeah. So, like I said, there were a lot of comments, not a lot of questions, and there were a lot of just general sentiment that you've seen since 2008 of like. Privatize the gains, socialize the losses. Sort of like, man, this does not feel good.
I got into a lot of trouble about that because I was like, look, we'll bail you out, but no more tax loophole for carried interest. And then the entire venture capital world just fell on top of me like a pile of rocks. One of my tweets got like screenshot and then quote tweeted around a bunch of like Silicon Valley CEOs. Goodness. And it was brutal. I haven't gone viral in a negative sense in a while. I'd forgotten how much people are just dicks. Like it was bad.
I wonder why people are so mad at VCs right now, or why we have so very.
If y'all don't follow the account VCs congratulating themselves, I'm sure you guys do, right?
VC congrats,
VC congrats.
Yeah.
It's
But Banu Prakash in the chat had a question. I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, Alex, but they go, can you discuss how the CEO of SVB allegedly withdrew almost $3.5 million worth by selling his stocks?
Yeah.
So the way that public company CEOs sell shares to avoid getting into legal trouble is beforehand they set up a schedule. They say, look, I'm going to sell X number of shares every Y number of months over Z number of years. And that way people can't say, hey, you sold that stock right before this thing tanked.
Right.
And so my impression
excuse,
well, there's no other way to do it if you don't want to stay entirely invested in just your company. So what I haven't heard is that this wasn't set up in advance. And so it was probably legal. That said, they probably kind of knew that there was some bad stuff going on. And so you could have just called it off. So to me, it's scummy-ish, but probably not illegal. If you want to get really mad about stock sales and stock purchases, think about how Congress gets to trade against the legislation they make. Yeah.
Not fair.
I mean, beyond that,
That's why there are lists of stocks traded by like Nancy Pelosi and other notable members of Congress.
Yeah, I mean, remember what happened at the beginning of COVID too, like as those contracts were going out.
Yeah, like at the very beginning of COVID, like before the lockdowns and everything, everybody was selling stocks. That seems weird.
Yeah, I didn't. I just kept buying stocks, and I got crushed there for a while. Whoops. Yeah, I don't try to time the market. I'm not smart enough to beat it, so I just buy boring index funds and just hope for the best. But it is annoying to me how there does seem to be kind of two legal systems in this country. Yeah. Like if you screw up massively, you get help, but if you steal like a Kit Kat, the cops will shoot you. So
Yep. The other thing I was thinking when we were thinking final thoughts was like, with this, I mean, it's just like the bailout came to this bank that services a very like privileged portion of society. Like it's all VC people who like themselves generally are like upwardly mobile, not super like, if this were like a small bank that like service mostly like underserved neighborhoods that like actually gave out loans to like people who were never going to get loans based on their race or whatever.
Crushing student loans and
exactly
possibility of helping them, it came on the
table.
Where
would the bailout come this quickly? Like I'm just like,
exact people were saying no student loans, but please save these banks. There was some nuance to this. I'm glad this stuff came up. These are companies, and companies employ people, and to pay those people, they need to take that money from SVB.
I agree with that.
So that is how it does affect normal people. There was this story about Roku. I think like 30% of their cash was just sitting in SVB. I'm like, first of all, what the hell, Roku? What are you doing?
That actually gets us on to another question that I had. Can you give us a list of notable tech firms that might have been more burned than others by this SPV crash?
So because deposits were essentially backstopped and became liquid-ish on Monday, the answer should be no one. There will be some knock-on effects of, people couldn't access their capital quite as quickly as they expected. Some founders that I spoke to earlier in the week said, we know it's coming, but currently we still can't get into Silicon Valley Bank, but we hope that we make payroll. So the idea was to prevent the sort of crisis that question is kind of alluding to, which is, people not making payroll, getting kicked out of their offices, having their AWS account turned off, losing access to their services and so forth. That's not going to happen. The argument, though, that we should bail out these companies because individuals would be hurt is very reasonable. But I think the same argument applies only when there's people who would get hurt and not just companies supporting them. So if we're going to support the second order effect, why can't we also support the first order effect? But we all know that poor people don't have political capital. So
I love it. Alex, a dude named Charlie in the chat says he likes your style and he's going to follow you now. So see, this was all worth it. You've got one more follower.
Yeah, you got one more follower. Congratulations.
Thanks, dude named Charlie.
Also, dude named Charlie, little do you know that I podcast just because I like hanging out with smart people and kicking it. So this is how I play at work.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Bryant Mitchell says, I must move to the one place untouched by capitalism, space, which is...
I got some stories to tell you about space.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's actually a quote from Command and Conquer.
Yes. You gotta say it like space.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
you do it. I'm not good. I'm good.
Tim Curry.
Yeah, it's Tim Curry. And if you watch that cutscene from Command and Conquer, he clearly thinks this is a very silly line and is stifling a laugh in the take that ended up going on to the game.
I love Tim Curry.
Wait. So like Command and Conquer Red Alert?
Yeah.
I grew up. That was one of my favorite
meme,
RTSs.
You've definitely seen this meme.
Yeah.
Look up Tim Curry Command and Conquer.
He was playing like a Soviet general or something. Yeah. He's like, I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism.
Space.
I just remember Tanya would shoot the tanks with her handguns, and she did like sick amounts of damage. The Tesla coils like, and they'd fry the people. That was a great game.
Let's go play some games, guys.
Dude. So while we were talking about like the 2-channel system in terms of who wins and who loses, Dpro 9 was saying USA, USA, USA. And that's all we need. Yeah, that's all you need to know. So I think we're done with you. Have a good.
Done with you. Okay, bye, Alex. Thanks for joining us.
Alex, Alex,
thank
we're
you so
done
much.
with.
And send Ben your audio, please.
I will send it to that email thread. Thank you all for having me. Shirley, a pleasure. Adventure, pleasure. And Julio. I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye now.
Later.
Shout out to Jonathan Tran, who says they're checking in between meetings and sticking around for the Raspberry Rally review. Raspberry Rally, I did not think to mention it, but that's a good reminder. I might later on.
Okay, so one programming note before we go on to other news. Can we put the 10.3 billion loss to online scammers first?
Sure.
Just because it is a good bookend with like we're talking about money stuff. Yeah. And
Again,
then we just
where's that story?
To Buddy305 Love, Alex is at Alex on Twitter. Just at Alex. That's it.
Alex, he's got a good
the big
dude, and that's also why I want to talk with Alex, because this stuff can be really dry unless you have fun with it. Americans lost to scammers. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Ready to go, Sherlyn?
Yep.
All right. We've got a bunch of other news, folks. Just sit tight, and we'll do some Q&A afterwards. Okay.
I'm going to get cramp from sitting in this position. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. Let's move on to some other news. And you know what? There's a lot going on this week. But before we get to the AI, stuff, there was a story about like how much people are actually losing to online scammers and to crypto as well. The Wall Street Journal reports that Americans lost a record $10.3 billion to online scammers last year, according to the FBI. Let me see. The total losses to online scammers rose to 10.3 billion from 6.9 billion in 2021. More those losses doubled from more than a year ago, and were the most investment scam losses were the most common scheme reported. Cryptocurrency fraud skyrocketed to 2.57 billion. So, hey, it seems like this entire system, the big money system, is not really protecting normal people, as we were pointing out. But I guess the banks will ultimately be fine, or at least the people who have a ton of money at those banks will be fine. Sherlyn, any thoughts on this?
I mean, it's like the age-old story, right? Like, as long as people have money, there's going to be scammers. It's just now the trend is the scammers are using NFTs or crypto to cheat people. Just stay vigilant.
The actual thing, like the thing about this whole industry is that even the legit NFTs feel like scams. Like it scams all the way down. So yes, of course, scammers will be able to like go in and like give you illegitimate crypto, get your money some other way. But it's because the actual core thing is kind of a scam to many people. So anyway, this is very sad. Let's move on to some AI news, which is not a scam, but will probably take over the world and destroy our jobs. So
and slightly more uplifting news, actually, in some of it. I mean, so this week we had a lot of news from Google to start. I mean, there's been a lot of AI news across the industry, but Google had a couple of events this week. One was the Google Health oriented event called The Checkup. And then there wasn't really an event for this, but Google also shared a lot of updates around AI coming into a lot of its workspace products. So workspace products include things like Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Slides, Meet, and Chat. And basically, it's going to add generative AI support to all of those things. So like in Gmail, and I think in Docs, and like maybe even Meet and other text document stuff, you've already got like some AI and smarts, right? I think we're used to seeing the auto-suggested replies and
and that's not
right?
really,
but
this is where we have to remind ourselves it's not really AI, it's better autocomplete. So yeah.
I mean, if we're like really talking about the definition of the word AI here too, like we could say that that's already been existing. Like AI's been already in this because the autocomplete is using some sort of intelligence to do it.
If anything maybe not touched by an algorithm is AI, then everything
exactly. There's a lot, and it's like it's hard to like we could go down a rabbit hole discussing the definition of AI. But anyway, so this is like a slightly more sophisticated version of that. So in the future, or by the end of this month, in the US and in English, users will be able to draft, replies, summarize, and prioritize emails in Gmail. You can also brainstorm, proofread, write, and rewrite text documents. But what I think is most interesting is you can auto-generate images and video in Slides. Sheets can create formulas autonomously. Meet, which was already available, which was already able to transcribe notes automatically, is going to be able to do that. And then in chat, which I guess people use, I don't know, but chat can enable workflows for getting things done. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. I think I never see it in action, but I feel like it's something where, like, similar to what Microsoft was starting to do in Teams, you can like have to-do lists within your chat page and that sort of. So that's what I'm imagining.
Sure. It
we'll
could be all sorts of things. The more we hear about this stuff in generative AI going into things, the more I'm reminded that Clippy was too early.
Yeah.
It's really, this is the
Clippy
dream
was ahead
of
of its time.
Clippy was ahead of its time, and he did not have the AI smarts to do all this stuff. But it is funny that the thing everyone is basically salivating over now is super Clippy. It's super Clippy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a little bit more color, like detail on what the updated workspace AI stuff is going to be able to do. For docs, if you're going to like just type the subject of your assignment onto the page, Google's generative AI can just quickly make up some additional text. So like, right. So like biological functions of like the nervous system or whatever. And then like you'll get like a suggested paragraph from docs, right?
Listen, the worst thing you can have in any document is a blank page, because that kind of does stop your brain.
It's a block.
So,
yeah. Anytime I write, I'm like, I don't like to like start on a blank page.
I just put like brainstorm words down.
I just do bullet points. Yeah, exactly. So speaking of bullet points, like if if you've written a draft or something, or if you've written some bullet points, you can also use the new rewrite function to kind of have the AI rework and maybe hopefully improve what you've written down. And then apparently they're going to add the I'm feeling lucky option to Gmail.
Yeah, to your reply is just like,
well, I don't,
sure.
yeah, like let's Russian roulette the reply. It sounds like fun, but probably not very professional. I don't know, man. So that's some of the changes coming to Google's workspace. More interesting, I think, is the health related updates that are coming from Google. First of all, I think the most straightforward things are that Google has used Duplex, which is the AI calling bot that it used to help people make reservations at restaurants. It's been using that during the pandemic, right? To kind of like call a lot of restaurants to ask for their updated hours, what their updated like practices and policies are. It's now used Duplex to actually call hundreds of thousands of US healthcare providers to verify their information and to see if those providers accept different various state Medicaid plans. So with all of that calling and research that Duplex has done, Google is going to make it easier to find some enrollment and re-enrollment information for Medicaid in search. So that's straightforward enough. Google, I think what's more interesting is that Google's using its AI to enable people and other, healthcare providers to use the basic ultrasound devices that are not like super expensive. Use that to do certain things like identifying data that could help the early detection of breast cancer. It could also use the ultrasound devices to do like better gestational age guessing, I think, in expectant mothers. So it's teamed up with a nonprofit in Kenya called Jacaranda Health to research some AI-based ultrasound treatments for mothers and babies in government hospitals. So I think that's fascinating. I sat through the briefing for this. It's really cool. It's also teaming up with Changkong Memorial Hospital in Taiwan to research how AI can detect breast cancer via ultrasound as an alternative to mammograms, which first of all, there's limited availability to mammograms in regions that just don't have
until you're older
those
too,
facilities.
right? So it's a whole process. Yeah.
Right.
This is cool.
And mammograms also are apparently less effective in populations with higher breast density. So if like, I've not done a mammogram. I'm just not that age yet. I've done the like doctor check ones, and even those feel like a little too guessy. It's like, was that a lump or was that just like fiber? Like,
I remember
what's
reading
going
like
on?
Over a decade ago, either in Wired or somewhere else, like that the one of the potential for AI, maybe it was through IBM Watson, was to sort of like have this idea of big data sets and being able to look at this stuff, like look at a scan of something and like give you ideas. So hey, maybe we'll actually get there. IBM Watson certainly did not get there, even though they spent billions of dollars on that.
No, but I am interested. I am curious to see how all these like big tech efforts in terms of like teaming up with or focusing on healthcare, like Google's doing here, or with Amazon buying One Medical. I don't know what that's gonna do. At least with Google, it seems more like research based, using AI to do like to find some things that could actually help people with early detection and stuff like that.
I hope so. I hope Google does not give up on this in 6 months, as they tend to do.
We'll see. We'll see. We really don't.
Man,
I know. We really don't know.
What's up with Fitbit too? Yeah.
So the good news, and this got me excited when I saw it, the good news is Fitbit, as part of this, set of Google Health related news, announced that it's finally taking or getting rid of that Fitbit premium subscription for your like own health stats. But it's like there's a lot of caveats here.
Yeah.
So in the past, I've complained about this before a lot. If you use the Pixel Watch, you buy the Pixel Watch or like a Fitbit Lux or whatever, you'll get like 6 months free Fitbit Premium, which will give you all access to all of your data, right? Once that 6-month trial is over, you'll lose access to your breathing rate, resting heart rate variability data. You can only see your daily information. You can't see past like that day. For like things like the 7-day trends of your breath rate or like your resting heart rate, you need to pay the $10 a month to see your own freaking data. I was so pissed. There was a whole video where I was so angry. You can still see it.
And because of that, because you yelled at them, Google.
Dude, no. I literally walked up to them at events and been like, what the hell is going on here?
I remember.
I'd be like, why is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so over multiple times. So most recently last week, I was at another Google event where I was like, y'all need to, what is going on here? Why am I paying?
Listen, I appreciate that, Sherlyn. I also miss the days of walking up to companies and just giving them shit for their products.
I love giving them shit. Exactly.
Awesome.
Oh, they know. And then like they couldn't. Anyway, this week, in fact, along with the other Google Health information, Fitbit said now you don't have to now that stuff is coming out of paywall. So if you want to see your 30-day up to 90-day trends for your breathing rate, your resting heart rate, your heart rate variability, you will be able to see it without having to pay the $10 a month. And more useful, or at least one of the better features that they're taking out of Fitbit Premium and making available to all users without a fee is sleep stages, which. Again, I yelled very loudly about this on the video where I was like, y'all, it's your industry leading with your like cardio based sleep stage detection feature, right? Yes, it is like something that, you started and the industry has followed, and Apple at the time hadn't done it yet. But dude, Samsung's been doing it for years. Apple added it with watchOS 9 and they're both offering it for free. They were like, they had the audacity to hide it behind the 10. Anyway, calm down again, because they have now reversed that and they've taken sleep stages out of premium. You will now be able to see your own sleep stages. And then the other stuff that's paywall behind premium is like Fitbit's sleep profile. So like if you want based on your 12 weeks of activity, we think you're a giraffe style of sleep, like that sort of thing. All right, fine, take that. Then like sleep guidance, like, how to improve your sleep. Okay. That sort of info is under premium. So I guess they still have to keep some stuff under premium, which...
I guess it makes sense, because Fitbit has been around for a while too, much longer than Samsung or Apple has had health stuff. And they've been charging premium stuff for a while, even pre-Google. So you
before
were paying
Google bought them.
Fitbit before. It is very hard for a company to be like, well, I like money, and if I make this thing free, I have less money. So why would I do this?
It's very interesting for me to see you be the devil's advocate for the company this time around. I'm
just giving you their thinking. I think it is garbage because it's free. It's 10 years after we all got used to what Fitbits were. Health trackers aren't new. This stuff should be free. You're Google. Make it happen.
So I think this is a positive development. I think it's nice to see Fitbit listen to me, but also everyone. I think this has a lot to do with Google buying it or taking over some of it. That really, again, doesn't make sense if you look at the Pixel Watch in comparison to things like the Apple Watch and Samsung's Galaxy Watches and such features having been paywalled.
Have you seen a Pixel Watch in the wild, not from a tech journalist, like from a normal human being?
Maybe like someone at my gym one time who herself was like using a Pixel phone already and was like telling me about how they liked the Pixel Watch, but then I don't know if I saw them actually wearing it, so I'm not sure.
Okay. But it's one of those things. It's a pretty watch, but man, I feel like Google's just so late to this. What took them so long? Anyway, we've still got a bunch of stuff. We've got more AI news too, because I wanted to open with the Google stuff because it does feel like Google it is coming from behind a little bit because they totally blew the Bard AI debut. And then even though Bing has its own issues too, like the story, the mentality has been that Google has been behind Microsoft. But anyway, there is still more stuff happening. OpenAI announced GPT-4 yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
3 months after we learned about GPT 3.5, like after ChatGPT, like this one is slightly better. It's slightly more efficient. It can understand both text and image inputs. So I saw a really good example on their blog post announcing this. There was like 3 pictures showing like an old style VGA cable being plugged into an iPhone, and then somebody like pulling it out, showing you that, oh, actually it's a USB-C cable. And then the question to GPT-4 was, so what is funny about this, right? And GPT-4 was able to be like, well, this is an iPhone with a VGA cable attached to it, yada, yada, yada. The humor is using an old style cable to attach to a modern device. And that's pretty good. Okay.
Nice.
Just from seeing the image, like not from any text around it, just like interpreting that image. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I think I could think of the potential applications for this too, right? Like where you're like trying to identify I mean, Lens does this, Google Lens does this, Apple's like camera also does this, where you like point your camera at something and it'll identify it for you. But like, it feels like OpenAI's GPT style is just a lot smarter. Yeah. You can search for more context. So wow.
For sure. So go check out the OpenAI blog post about this, but basically they showed off like how the GPT-4 is better at like the LSAT. It's better at major tests. Nice. Benchmarks in general make it seem like a much better chatbot. Of course, the thing we have to point out here is that tests, oh my God, you mean this thing that learned like the entirety of human knowledge is able to pass this test, which depends on just knowing things and memorizing things. Like we already know tests aren't the best way to test like actual students and to test like aptitude around things. So it is funny that we'll be like, yeah. We gave this thing all this data and it just used that data. Yes.
Yeah. No, when you said like benchmarks, I was like, what is a benchmark for a chatbot?
They're all so the blog post like has things I do not understand, but the numbers look better for GPT-4 compared to GPT 3.5. They say it hallucinates at a lower rate and does so around 40% less at the time. We also saw the news. Microsoft admitted or announced that Bing, the Bing AI,
confirmed it.
Actually runs on GPT-4. So if you're in that Bing beta, you're basically testing GPT-4 right now. I've been like throwing it some questions. It's it's pretty good. It's going to be really interesting to see how this stuff is spreading around. My main worry is that we also saw the news that Microsoft laid off its team responsible for ethical AI development. And it just feels really weird that we are just like barreling ahead. We're like turning the speed dial up on AI stuff. And anybody like who is getting in the way or slowing down these companies seems like they're being thrown by the wayside. So Google did this. Microsoft is doing this. Yeah.
I mean, let's contextualize it slightly. Yeah. So like it's not that it's like gotten rid of completely all kinds of like responsible AI department, because it is still keeping its office of responsible, what was it, AI, right? But like the fact that it's laid off so many people that were involved in ethical AI development is not a good sign.
I don't know how you define the department. Like, is one person being there still the department? Because the story we've been seeing from Yahoo Finance is that Microsoft has laid off, reportedly, but laid off the entire team responsible for ethical and sustainable outcome for AI development. Maybe they have another AI, like ethics.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. My understanding is that like that was a part of the Office of Responsible or Ethics, like that sort of stuff. Because the thing is, I find that hard to believe. I guess the reason I find it so hard to like align with what I saw is that at the Bing AI event, there was a whole section devoted to responsible AI development. And there was a whole separate panel talking about ethics. So it's either you talked big about how important this was to you and then you laid people off, or there's something I'm not understanding about the structure of your, like, is it becoming, you know, but the fact that people were laid off, I think again, reportedly, right? Like if people were laid off, then that means you're dropping resources on this thing you said was important to you. So it is curious.
Yeah, it seems like they were part of the 10,000 employees being laid off by Microsoft that we talked about earlier. We need to see numbers. We need to see more news about this.
Microsoft needs to explain.
This is all developing, and we will be talking with them hopefully. this sort of thing is just like it is worrying because we see Bing being spread all over Windows 11. There's a story about you can now enhance your LinkedIn profile. Don't forget Microsoft owns LinkedIn.
Exactly.
With AI written suggestions. Okay.
It's
also
weird.
testing AI written job descriptions, which could probably help a bunch of people's LinkedIn profiles.
True.
Yeah.
But and then at that point, is your LinkedIn profile still going to be useful? Like, how do we look at resumes from now on if everything's going to be written by AI? I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, listen, if you write a resume now for a lot of big companies, it's an AI, like it's a bot looking at your resume and scanning it for keywords related to
so
that
the AI just talking to each other, right? The AI wrote the resume and then the AI is reading
at this point. So anyway, speaking of layoffs, Mark Zuckerberg announced the year of efficiency for Meta as the company is laying off an additional 10,000 workers. Oh my God. So we have already talked about Meta layoffs. This is another round of another 10,000 workers. It turns out Mark Zuckerberg, in November, we talked about them laying off more than 11,000 people. It seems like the big bet on Meta and the metaverse probably is not paying off for us so well for Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. Year of efficiency just tells me this is a year of tightening our belt.
Except his
and
belt,
purse
probably.
strings.
Yeah. So everyone's going big on AI now, and feels like last year Meta was the only one being like, metaverse. We're so excited about the metaverse. It's all us. And I've yet to see anything actually good within the metaverse they're talking about. So anyway.
Exactly. We'll see. I mean, Meta, they also said it was killing support of NFTs on Facebook and Instagram, which LOL. I could have told you.
Yeah, the other big fail of tech recently.
But I mean, this is efficiency. If you want to kill something, like kill this one. You know what I mean? Like this was really not useful, at least to me, and I think to a vast majority of the audience of the population. Yeah. So.
It is funny, like how much of the VC audience too we were talking about earlier, who are all big on NFTs and Web3. Oh my God, all the .eth, all the .eth usernames and
no concern for the environment, no concern for like just all the impact that it would have. Because it didn't. It's just they saw the money, they saw the dollar signs. That was it.
Speculative markets, people. Where there's money, people will find a way to be there. Let's talk about a few things that are maybe less rage-inducing, Sherlyn. How about a nice, pleasant phone? How about a Galaxy A54?
How about a nice a nice mid-range phone that won't cost you a whole month's rent, right? Isn't that nice?
I feel my anxiety levels diminishing right now, going
immediately.
Lower.
The Galaxy A54, it is a $450 phone. It follows up the Galaxy A53 from last year, and it'll be available, I don't think in the US just yet. Actually, it will be available in the US for also $450. So some of the bigger changes come around the display. It is now slightly smaller, 6.4 inches than last year's 6.5, which I like that. The maximum brightness now goes up to 1,000 nits, so making it easier to see in sunlight. Very far off still from the 1,750 nits we saw on the Galaxy S23
and
Ultra.
You'll probably never ever use that full brightness. So like even in direct sunlight, 1,000 nits.
Yeah, you're not... Right, exactly. That 1750 is not in indoor use for sure. That's like outdoor max boost. The screen also goes up to 120 hertz. So this is like a mid-range phone that gives you nice refresh rates, which is nice to know. But here's the thing. The A54 is going to use the Exynos 1380. It's a 5 nanometer octa-core processor. It's the company's latest Exynos chip. And the company is saying it should offer 20% better performance on CPU, task, etc., etc. Sure. I mean, not a big fan of Exynos chips in phones. You know what I mean? But
mid-range, man.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It is a mid-range. It's part of what keeps the phone a little cheaper. And then we've got, a triple camera system with a 50 megapixel main camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and 5 megapixel macro.
It's kind of amazing. Like 5 years ago, we'd look at this phone and be like, oh my God, this is next level. Look at that little dot camera at the top. Look at this edge to edge display. So it's very nice for this price. Our reporting, we also cover the Galaxy A34, which is not coming to the US, but also looks pretty good. It has a little notch.
Yeah, and it's a bit cheaper too.
I love cheaper phones that are actually good. Like that
probably last you about as long as your flagship phone too. So there you go. Oh, speaking of cheap phones or mid-range phones, hey, the industry leading mid-range or phone, at least on the Android side of things, usually is the Pixel A series, right? So like people actually are surprisingly excited for A series Pixels. I think it's funny. And they're excited enough that there are leaks for the upcoming Pixel 7a.
Yeah, like back in the day. We got phone leaks.
Apparently there's enough hype for the Pixel 7a for there to be leaks. So anyway, apparently a Vietnamese website says it's called Zing News, and it's got like photos of a prototype of the Pixel 7a that apparently some programmers were using. It's a test device for
How can you even tell this is a new A series Pixel?
So if you look at the pictures, it looks just like the Pixel 7. Yeah. And I just think it's quite funny that these people were just like, yeah, we're gonna leak this, we don't care, we got a phone and we're gonna like share the pictures. Because anyway, after the pictures were released, Google apparently or reportedly locked the phone remotely, but the person who had the phone still was able to make sure to like find out it was running Android 13. It had a 90 hertz screen option.
Good job.
8 gigs of RAM.
Yeah. There was also another leak, the Pixel 8 Pro, which again, I saw this image and I was like, is there like a good designer working at Google? Because what the hell? This phone looks like what?
They actually like the look. I can't tell you. I don't like it. I'm sorry. I tripped over myself so much to say it, but I don't like it. It
looks like BUTT. But yeah, it's like the same like rear bar design with the cameras on the back, and it just there's just was it the Pixel 6 or the Pixel 5 that introduced that design? It seemed like it had a bit of a personality, so that's cool.
So the 6 had a straight bar that was like not metal, or at least not silver metal, and then the 7 brought the like very Cyclops looking bar where the bar itself was like had a metallic finish, but then the cameras were like housed in this kind of rounded rectangle, so it looked like an eye or like a triple eye, I don't know. And then so based on these pictures,
nobody wants to be Cyclops. He's boring.
Yeah, these pictures look like more of the same, except the cameras seem like they stretch across more of the bar and just look bigger and more more obvious. Not great. I'm not liking what I see, unfortunately.
So this is it's a render picture. There are a couple other pictures with it. It looks fine, but it does make me sad to see like Google not even try. Like maybe when we get it in our hands and do some hands-ons, it'll be interesting.
I don't think they're not trying. I think they actually think this is nice.
Yeah, this is my problem with Google. Well, let's talk about
Google. I love you, but this is not my cup of tea. So.
Something we did see, Sony made a $600 point-and-shoot camera for the visually impaired. This looks really cool, and I love this idea.
I'm very interested in this, and I'm glad we decided to bring it up. It has a viewfinder. This is the DSC HX99 RNV. It has a viewfinder that can project images directly onto a person's retina.
That's super cool.
It is interesting. I think it's not for people who are blind. This is for people who have low vision or visual impairments, and that's nice, right? Like if you think about a point and shoot camera, the viewfinder is not something that like people with low vision can easily use. It's not something that like, if you have like very thick glasses you need to wear, it's not necessarily easy to do. So this might be helpful. I haven't seen it, used it at all. So
to describe it, it looks like a Sony point and shoot, but it has like a big, a big arm holder, like a big holder on the side.
A grip.
It has a big grip. And the viewfinder is the Retissa Neo Viewer. And it just looks like a big circle you're putting up right up to your eye. So it's cool.
Yeah.
It's unique.
It's very interesting to see. And I love for more companies to think about this. And this is really actually a part of a small and growing trend, I think, out of Sony, because Sony announced the adaptive controller for PlayStation. What was it, like last year? At CES this year.
A couple months ago, yeah.
At CES, yeah. And then now it's talking about this. It seems to be like paying more attention to how it can improve accessibility of its products, which is very encouraging to see. And Sony makes a lot of products that people use. So
people can also use this camera to see faces, read signs, and capture photos and videos.
Excellent.
But actually using it, even if you're not taking or shooting footage, just to see more clearly is kind of cool. This is the first use of laser retinal projection technology, so it's very exciting. And $600
Let's
is
see
not
how
much
well
for
it
a
works.
specialized thing like this. I would love, hopefully we can find somebody who can help us review this and test this, because I think it's a really cool device. Would love to see more like this. Anything else you want to mention about this camera, Sherlyn?
No, just want to get it into see and have a friend or someone I know that might be visually impaired try it out.
Yep. Super cool. We've got a couple other quick news bites. You may have seen the news that T-Mobile is buying Ryan Reynolds Mint Mobile for
what a match made in heaven.
What's funny is that my parents moved over to Mint Mobile to get away from T-Mobile. And now it's like T-Mobile's just like, no, you're back.
Sorry.
Yeah. This is
this one of those? I don't think Mint Mobile is big enough for this to be like where we need regulatory approval, right? Yeah.
No, it's very small. Mint is very small, but the Ryan Reynolds ads have been everywhere. It has been a big deal that I remember when he started talking about this company, we're like, why is Ryan Reynolds doing this? It's because eventually somebody would pay him a lot of money for it. So this could potentially make Ryan Reynolds, together with the sale of his gin company, is that Aviation Gin? Ryan Reynolds is probably going to be a billionaire after these sales. Like, no,
smart.
He doesn't need to be Deadpool anymore.
But
he could just,
here's the thing, right?
Be money. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. He was never like all that involved in Mint Mobile. I think he did the marketing for it, right? He was very smart.
He had a big stake in it, as I recall.
Big stake, that's for sure. I don't know how involved he was. I don't know how involved he was in making some of the basic plans free or some of the other perks that the company was doing, right?
Ryan Reynolds here for sales and features and everything,
Right. Here's where I think the genius of it is. I think the genius of all these Ryan Reynolds' businesses is the marketing. Like, I think more than anything, he's a marketing guy and he knows it, and he takes a business that he can see improving the value of just by sheer good marketing through his Maximum Productions channel.
A lot of people have done that. Yeah. A lot of celebrities have done that, but he has done it very successfully. So shout out to Ryan Reynolds.
Very well.
I am getting annoyed when I see him in movies now, because he kind of does one thing over and over again.
The same thing.
It did not. There was a recent spy movie that was a lot of fun, and then he popped up, and I'm like, why? You could have had anybody else. But anyway, Bullet Train is fun. Good. Bullet Train's a lot of fun.
It was fun. Yeah.
It was fun. We've got other news. Amazon satellite internet antennas. Look weird because they look like little tables. They were
This is for Amazon's what is it? The Starlink alternative. Satellite internet.
Kuiper?
Yeah. Sure. And if you look at these things, they're supposed to be like antenna. They really look like coffee tables for dolls. It was weird. Just go look at the picture on Engadget.com.
Tables. You would put this on a picnic table or something, and it has to be flat because these things are talking with low Earth satellites.
Right.
So
the surface needs to be
low Earth orbit satellites. Yeah. So okay, that makes sense. And in similar space stuff, I would just want to shout out the NASA Artemis spacesuits were announced, and they look like anime spacesuits, and I love them. I love them so much. This is super fun. Now the color, they have small helmets, pretty slim helmets, not like the old big, not as huge as they used to be. And the actual suit themselves look like Macross, uniforms or something. So I love it. I don't know if you have style thoughts, Sherlyn.
I mean, they look cool. That's it, really. Go take a look at the picture.
Yeah, the helmet includes lights, an HD camera. As astronauts enter the suit through a hatch in the back, in the life support backpack. So it just looks cool. It looks like we are one step closer to what's the Amazon show? The Expanse. Are you watching The Expanse, Sherlyn?
Nope.
I think you would love The Expanse if you.
I know we've talked about this.
Yeah. I think it's totally up your alley. Anyway, we are getting closer to The Expanse, and hopefully not the crummy politics of The Expanse, because, I guess that show and that book is so realistic, because it turns out that is what we were already kind of building in our society. So love it. Finally, There's a report from Bloomberg Technology about Meta, Amazon, and other companies calling workers back to the office in 2023. I just want to take a step back and be like, well, yeah, I guess this makes sense. Sherlyn, do you have thoughts about this? Like, it does seem like companies are kind of, they want to push people back in. They are maybe less comfortable with remote work going forward. Like, they don't want it to be the trend moving forward. I don't know. Do you have any personal thoughts about this?
I mean, I think we've talked about this since we've been talking about hybrid work since the
pandemic
began. Was sort
yeah.
of So this is not news to me, but it's like, what are we talking? Are we talking like mandatory 5 days a week? Or are we talking mandatory 3?
Amazon has told employees to return to offices 3 days a week starting May 1st. Meta announced plans to. Let me see here. Meta's encouraging staff to come to work in person. Snap is doing similar things. I know people at like movie studios and other tech companies too, where they've gotten letters from the CEOs being like, you got to be back to the office 3-4 days a week. And then when people be like, why? I'm doing my job perfectly here. I'm actually more productive because I'm not wasting time commuting in. Nobody ever replies. So
I feel like we've had this conversation before, and I've spoken to some friends who are in companies that are included in this list, and they're like, yeah, but there's no real enforcement. Like, I go to the office 2 days a week and it's supposed to be 3, and it's not like my manager's breathing down my neck.
It's good as long as there's no enforcement, but who knows how long that'll last. And it's just like weird. I feel like part of it is like a control thing, right? It's just like, you have to do what we say because we're in charge, right? You are not in charge of your own life. We own your life to a certain degree. Anyway, let us know, folks. Like, what is your work from home relationship like? If you're lucky enough to be able to work remotely, it's been a good thing. Like, because things have gotten so relaxed, I was able to like move to another state and keep doing most of my job, and honestly do other things I couldn't do in New York. Like, I can drive cars and I could test cars, and I couldn't easily do that in Brooklyn. So yeah, it is weird and rough. Let's move on to what we've been working on. I am taking a look at Acer's 3D gaming laptop. It's using their Spatial Labs technology, I believe it's called. 3D without glasses. That's kind of cool. I'm playing some games. I'm playing Forza Horizon 5. I'm playing God of War on it. It's very cool. It is limited to 1080p when you're actually in 3D mode because the display is 4K and it's limited to 60 hertz, which is not great for a gaming PC. I have to say the 3D kind of hurts my eyes a little too. I feel like that'll be the death knell for this thing. It's also very expensive. So I'm working on a review. I'll have deeper thoughts about it. This does not. Sorry. You got me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to see this tech in action, like in other screens, maybe in TVs. But the problem is because it's glasses-free 3D, it is tracking your eyes. So it only supports one person at a time. One person sitting right in front of the screen. Not super useful. But anyway, check out my full review soon. Sherlyn, what are you working on?
I am still working on the Halo Rise review, if only because we had some issues getting a unit for video and also kind of stepping in to help other people on the team that needed some help this week. So, still working on that. In the background, I've been editing some other pieces. We have a lot of good stuff coming out, so that's nice. What else am I working on? More stuff that I can't talk about. The story is always with me.
Working. So I feel like, we never have downtime, folks. If we're not talking about it, it's because it's under embargo and there's a lot of news coming up.
And you'll just find out.
You'll find out soon. Stay tuned. You know what's up. Let's move on to our pop culture picks. What you got this week, Sherlyn?
All right, so got to talk about 3 things. Not all 3 of them are picks. It's just like stuff I've been watching. Starting with, saw the final episode of The Last of Us.
Yay.
Is everyone caught up? Is everyone all caught up? Can we talk about it?
No, not fully for our audience, but yeah.
No, definitely not fully for our audience. But anyway, last episode was great. I think it set things up for a second season, which is nice. And the acting was good. It was just, again, every single episode, everyone's been crying and heart-wrenching. So it really just makes you think about all these like questions of morality and like integrity and ethics and also like what it means to be a human being trying to be good or whatever in a way that's like different from The Good Place or Ted Lasso. So nice. It was
very different from Ted Lasso.
Very, very different, but makes you want to be like, makes you ask if you were in this situation, what would you do, right? So I think that's where it is.
I've been thinking about this since the end of the game. It's basically the end.
I didn't
of the
play
first
the game, yeah,
so
but
avoid spoilers, folks. Like if you waited this long, I will say it hits different for parents than it does
for sure,
for other people.
Absolutely,
and there's a lot of things.
All the dads I know, all the dads that I know who have seen this were like weeping, like throughout the series,
also,
not just.
I would do the same thing. Anyway, anything else you want to mention, Trillian?
Yeah. So second thing, I already just kind of shouted out, Ted Lasso is back. I haven't seen it yet. The first episode, I am kind of waiting to be a few weeks in.
It's good.
So that I can wait.
Good. Yeah, I've seen the first.
Oh yeah, I know. I am very excited, but I am also, it's bittersweet because this is going to be the last season, and I'm just sad. I want them to wrap things up nicely, give me like do it in the way The Good Place ended, which is kind of like was very soothing. Now third, these are three shows. The three shows I'm talking about this episode are three shows that are like live, like they're happening weekly, and you like find new episodes. This third one is probably the one that you'll agree with the least, but I was introduced to Married at First Sight Australia by some of our teammates, and it's incredible. I've talked about some trashy reality dating shows on this podcast, and this is sort of in the same vein. And it's people who get paired up by three experts or a team of experts who are like relationship and dating therapists or counselors, and they interview all these candidates, and they're like, okay, we think we can find you someone who can help you and you can fall in love, whatever. And then all they do is they show up at their wedding and they meet their partner there for the first time, and then they go on this experiment to like see how to work through their issues as a couple. It's very, very flimsy of a premise.
Do they actually take advantage of Australia and the location of like, okay, you're going to the outback for your honeymoon, will you survive?
No,
together? Are you actually a couple? Yeah.
These are Australians, so I think they do the outback thing on their own time. They've come together to be in. I think this show is shot in Sydney, and so they all like live in Sydney in some like apartments in one apartment building, and they do stuff like they go out for girls' nights or boys' night, like all as constructed by the experiment and the counselors or whatever. Then they do like weekly activities, weekly dinner parties, and every week at the end of like the week of planned activities by the show, they come to a couch. Every couple is put on the couch and asked questions about their relationship and what problems they're going through and how they communicate. And you like through this process, I like this more than other dating shows because the therapists or the counselors or the experts, there's three of them, and they really just, you watch them kind of counsel couples. So it's like passive couples therapy. You're just sitting there like, oh, and then you like notice other people's behaviors and you're like, oh my God, this is what I've been doing. Kind of like other dating shows, but with the added component of these like TV experts, kind of like Dr. Phil, but like not as shitty.
I mean, that's why I feel like a lot of us like reading self-help like questions.
Oh yeah.
Like love experts like Dr.
But here, right.
But
the good thing, right. But the good thing about shows like this, and again, I said like MAFS, MEFS, Married at First Sight, is the unique component of it is the experts weighing in, right? So like but there's the fun of it, which is all trash reality dating TV shows do this. You get to watch people be shit. You get to watch people be like dramatic, like just all the drama, the chaos, and then like the assholes. There's always a villain, and it's like
when are we? I know wasn't there the Circle that like relied on algorithm
perfect match,
but let's get GPT involved in this. Like when are we gonna get the actual generative AI stuff, like actually matchmaking people in ways, and like have the entire thing run by AI. AI will write the scripts. AI will come up with the scenarios.
That's a pitch.
Eventually, AI could edit all the footage together. Like, I think this is it.
I can't wait to watch. Yeah.
I don't know if I can, because then it's just like infinite content, right? Like then all the people, all the workers, Sario, live stream producer Julio, all the people involved with the technical aspects of this production will be all replaced. All the hosts, everything, all replaced by AI. Don't you love it?
Bye to all of us. Yes. But anyway, that I've been enjoying that. And I mean, in America, we can't really watch. You can watch it through VPN if you want to. The American version of Married at First Sight is not nearly as good as from what I hear. And also now I speak in an Australian accent in my head, so that's great. There you go.
One of the best accents. I do love a good Australian.
I love
Siri into Australian accents like ever since Siri could change voices. So great, Sherlyn. I want to talk about two things real quick. Shouting out History of the World Part 2.
Oh yeah.
I cannot believe there's an actual sequel to History of the World Part 1. Like the joke of that movie was always that this is not a series. We're just going to call it Part 1. But Mel Brooks is back, and he's brought a bunch of great people, including Nick Kroll, Wanda Sykes, and Ike Barinholtz, to do kind of that whole thing again. Different segments, different like comedy beats, revisiting history, they're just in fun ways. And there's a lot of great guest stars here. JB Smoove is here. They do the story of Judas and Jesus as Curb Your Enthusiasm with Nick Kroll and JB Smoove, and JB Smoove is in Curb, so it's just like you're watching that show again, and it's hilarious. I think it's really good. Like any one of these things where it's like different sketches, not everything quite works, but I think a lot of the stuff that is there is pretty good. Ronnie Cheng is Kublai Khan.
Oh, really, that's awesome.
Really funny. There was one with what's his face? Indian comedian Kumail. There's a Kumail one.
Nanjiani? Yeah, nice.
Where it's just like the first revision of the Kama Sutra, where it was the Kama Sutra, and he paired positions with soups. And that's the joke.
Wow.
It's so silly and dumb, but
it's awesome.
You know what? It is so dumb. Like by the time they repeat it, like they go into it for 5 minutes, you're like, yeah, this is hilarious. It's really good. So anyway. History of the World Part 2, I think is really good, really funny. And one thing I'd want to maybe recommend to you, Sherlyn, because it turns out we were talking, you're not a big fan of the Scream franchise. I don't know if you've seen you saw like 4, right?
No, I saw that. Yeah, the one that they recently did.
That was the last year. That was Scream 5. So Scream 6 is out. I've got thoughts. I think it is a fun movie, but it's also like a weird. It kind of fails to live up to the Scream formula too. I have a full review over at the Filmcast. You could go hear me rant about it there. But I also think the series is fun and it is a good watch. And I just want to recommend it to you, Sherlyn. Like the first Scream is a freaking masterpiece. Like I think it's one of the best horror movies ever made. I know you like supernatural stuff more. It gets a little weird and a little like almost spiritually by Scream 3, but it's the fun of it. Watching this movie reminds me that Scream is so weird because it's a murder mystery. It's not just horror. It's not just a slasher movie. It is who's the killer? How is this being done? How is it all wrapped together? There is something fun about it, and I think that is a lot of that.
I mean, that reminds me of the movie Urban Legends. Have you seen that one? Yeah. So I liked Urban Legends a lot. Yeah. So
that was of the era where I believe everybody was just trying to do Scream. You know, like I know what you did last summer. Like that was that whole wave of like, well, Scream is good, so we're gonna have a whole bunch of these too. Anyway, Scream 6.
Okay.
I had fun with it, but it's kind of a mess. But also watch Scream, Sherlyn. I think you would have.
Okay.
You'd really enjoy the series. So anyway,
I'm down.
That's all I've got. I think we're good to go.
Okay. So for those in the audience, I'm going to record the conclusion for the audio episode now, but stick around. We'll do a little bit of Q&A after this. Well, that's it for the episode, everyone. Thank you as always for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our very own Terrence O'Brien. This podcast is produced by Ben Ellman. You can find Devindra online at
Devindra on Twitter, at Devindra at Mastodon.social, and also at the Filmcast at thefilmcast.com.
If you want to send me your favorite villains from Married at First Sight Australia, I am at Sherlyn Lowe on Twitter. Email us your thoughts at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review, please, on iTunes, and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts.
Okay, we are done and ready to talk to chat. And I've got
chat.
Three things banked, but let me know if you have other things.
I'm still scrolling, so go for it.
Okay, so D-Man said, and D-Man talks about himself in the third person. If D-Man was CEO of an org, he would never, ever hire anyone just to write or do graphic design or anything. Hiring anyone for those positions instead of AI would be fired. Ha. And then we ended up having a conversation about how true that is, because at least at the current state of things, seems like all of these machine learning generated bits of text and pictures have some significant problems, especially when you're rendering human faces. I saw something just yesterday, a like AI rendering of a couple old folks. It was like a chumbox image, one of those really scammy images that you would see at the bottom of a news article.
Yeah.
And there were big mistakes on these human faces that made them horrifying. I did not see this live. I saw this like as a screenshot, so I'm not sure if this is running or if this is kind of just a render of like what this could look like.
Yeah. It's very easy for this stuff to go bad. It's the fingers. Like, it's the really high quality stuff. It's the stuff that really creeps me out now, where it's like, we've seen some photos that's just like, hey, here's a group of beautiful looking models just hanging out, having drinks. And it's all AI generated, except they have like 20 fingers.
Oh no, I love the ones with the the 70 teeth.
Yeah,
like, that's
yeah.
my
Or
favorite.
either they have like 4 teeth or they have 70 teeth, and there's
like
no
we're
in
in a
between.
weird David Cronenberg movie right now, and like he was right. He was always right about everything.
I was like, I was like looking at it. I was like, I don't see anything wrong. And then someone like pointed out the teeth. I was like, whoa,
Look at the teeth.
Yeah, I don't have that many teeth.
Now
is true.
when we look at people in real life, we also have to count the fingers, count the teeth.
Yeah.
Is this
but
an AI
but
bot
they're gonna
as
fix
a
that.
physical
Yeah.
person?
But that minus those things though, how do you tell, right? So like, oh my god, okay.
So on a similar, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, so on a similar note, then we ended up talking about NFTs no longer being supported on Instagram. And so someone mentioned that NFTs were bad for the environment. Everybody knows that.
Yep.
And that got me really curious about how much energy ChatGPT is consuming, because it must be a similarly resource heavy thing. And I went to a lecture by the writer Kate Crawford, who started the AI Now Institute at NYU a number of years ago. She's no longer affiliated with NYU, just to be accurate. And I was looking for the exact figure, but I remember they said that in order to train one natural language model, it took something like, in the tens, 20, 30 or more round trip flights from New York to Shanghai worth of
it's tons
carbon
of data.
emissions.
Like, it's tons of data,
and
it's lots of work.
Complicated processing.
And Google
I think we need to separate the comparison here a little bit, because NFT and crypto is an ongoing process which has a heavier environmental implication, because there's everyone that's minting it, every step of the blockchain process requires the same amount of power and processing. And that's why mining crypto is such a heavy task, because if everyone's doing it with their heavy GPUs, like in like RTX whatever,
it's getting harder and harder.
That's
because
worse.
You're solving this
right.
problem. Yeah.
Whereas yes, the processing of AI and getting a neural net to learn things is happening on a quantum machine level. It's like happening in Google servers. That's more limited, because it's like there is a lot of power consumption, but it's not like everyone's using that amount.
I would love to see the numbers, because every time you ping GPT, ChatGPT, or anything, it is doing a lot of processing work, and that's feeding it back to you. And
but
that
it's
is
also
where,
right. It's very curious, because I know that the reason NPUs are designed and TPUs are designed, especially at the small level that they are as they exist on phones and stuff like that, those are designed with energy efficiency in mind as well.
And so
it's like, it'll be very interesting to see.
To do the work on your device, so better than just like going to a massive server.
Oh, absolutely.
So we talked about like the Windows Studio effects and stuff, like those studio background stuff, and we're seeing more and more computers, not just like the freaking Surface computer, but more with built-in AI processing chips too that can handle some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
At a lower cost. So
and then
like
there's the bigger question of, okay, what are the startup costs?
Yep.
And then what are the continued operating costs? Just the same way that we're figuring out what are the startup costs for, what's the carbon footprint of a combustion engine versus a electric car, and are electric cars front-ended in terms of their carbon footprint, but their carbon footprint is largely
we need to see the numbers. I'm pretty sure a lot of companies have not been willing to share exact numbers, or how much this stuff actually works. So there's a lot more reporting that needs to be done here. But guys, nothing is magic, right? Like the basic rule of physics, like everything, you don't get something from nothing. And a lot of this stuff takes serious work, serious heat, serious power to produce.
Speaking of serious heat,
stuff.
DPro9 just just said that they once stepped into a dude's garage who was mining Litecoin. He had 200 GPUs and a ton of fans going. Yep. That sounds like a house fire waiting to happen.
House fire, and also bad for that neighborhood and everybody attached to that part of the grid too. Oh my God.
Yeah. So speaking of which, CF542 said that crypto and fraud go together like chocolate and peanut butter when we were talking about crypto fraud going up.
About it, yeah.
Then Devendra, I think that your point of view that Clippy was ahead of its time was really interesting.
It's nothing new. I think we even mentioned that like when this stuff started happening, but yeah.
Okay, well, I liked hearing it again. I thought that was very smart.
It is, and I think like moving forward, the thing I think we all want is like for Siri and for like Cortana is dead, but Siri and Google Assistant to actually be useful and to actually do stuff with you. I think like that's where a lot of the stuff is going to go, and at that point it actually becomes useful. I think we covered the story about Mercedes, or one of the big car companies wants to bring a chatbot to your car where it's basically
yeah, we talked about it last.
Yeah. It's just Knight Rider, and sure. Yeah,
I think someone in the chat.
Daniel's voice, please.
Yeah. Sorry, someone in the chat also mentioned like, where's the EV news? There was actually a bunch of EV news this week, and I think we just kind of didn't include them because the other news section was already so long.
There's
so long.
News. But yeah, the Kia EV9, we wrote about that announcement. I think that car looks really cool.
Yeah.
I am also working on a piece about like bigger family EVs, because that's where I'm thinking after the Rivian R1S. So, and also thinking about the costs there, big batteries, big materials to create these things. These cars also kind of hurt the environment too, just less than a gas. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was surprised to see dude named Charlie and Gabriel have a conversation about Aura and Fitbit when we were talking about the Fitbit thing.
Not your actual Aura, not your physical Aura.
Yeah, Aura, the ring makers.
Not getting a picture of your Aura for like $15.
I like your vibe.
Dude named Charlie says that there's stats is here that sleep data is still premium. Sleep data is split, right? There's some sleep data that is premium, and the more important ones are not premium anymore. The sleep stages is not. Sleep profile, yes, it is. And Dude and Charlie says that they think $7 a month is too much. I think $7 a month is even the like discounted version. It's like if you buy a whole year plan, the actual price for Fitbit Premium is $9.99 a month. And Gabriel rightly points out, Aura, the ring makers, did this, and it was ridiculous. Meanwhile, Samsung is free, Apple is free. So
we should have mentioned this during the show. By the way, Microsoft had a Future of Work event while we were recording.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So go check out that story. Microsoft just announced Microsoft 365 Copilot, which uses AI to automate everyday tasks, just like the Google stuff we were talking about. So,
okay. So actually, while you were talking about Gabriel mentioning the Aura and everything, Gabriel said the please don't cancel thing from Aura made it appear like you'd lose all your data, but everything was still there when he signed back up, which makes me wonder, like, how long did it take for you to sign back up? And it's possible that Aura was just saying, like, we dump data periodically, but we don't want to tell you how periodically we dump it, and so it just so happens that you signed back up inside the period of when we would dump old user data.
All right. I think we're past noon now, and I don't know that we saw anything else that's great. CF542 asked if we worry about AI replacing most of our writing responsibilities. It is not a big concern for me because a lot of my job is about like experiencing something firsthand, doing a lot of firsthand reporting, and then writing about it. And AI can't go out there and experience something firsthand. So like, I think AI might actually help me it could come up with like a skeleton.
Yeah. Right? While it's helping us, it's also learning.
It's learning. So I'm not going to like rely on AI too much. I'd rather use AI to do things like come up with a specs comparison table so that I don't need to do it myself.
But you still have to look at it and look at those numbers.
Yes,
I saw a funny thing. Shout out to The Verge, and Nilay wrote a great thing about his brother laser printer, where it's really short. Like, it's a really bit like, hey, this printer rules. Just buy it. Shut up. Stop looking at wire cutter. Just buy this printer, and your life will be better. And then
I've actually been looking for a printer, so let me look that up right now.
Brother printer. But at the end, he was just like, here's ChatGPT talking about the benefits of laser printers for 300 words because I'm tired and Google search needs more words. So something like that.
That's incredible. No, you know what? You're right. That's if I need filler, I'm going to have ChatGPT do filler.
It's totally filler of just like laser printers are better than inkjet printers because they require a toner. Not
That's
ink-dry
amazing.
cartridge. It's very basic.
Okay,
stuff.
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm actually gonna set this as an alert for a second-hand thing. I'm gonna buy someone else's brother HL.
Sure.
Bojack says, why does Exynos still exist? I guess because Samsung still wants to make them.
You want to make your own chips. Like, you want to be in the business of making your own chips. You don't want to be reliant on anybody, Like, that's
exactly. Really there were people who did not like that you came for Ryan Reynolds, Devindra.
Tired
Darren N was like, I won't have Devindra disparaging his good name. Good on you, Darren N.
I've been a Ryan Reynolds fan since since he was scrounging for roles in the early 2000s. So, okay, Van Wilder. I watched Van Wilder. Okay.
Oh, I watched Van Wilder too.
Yeah, many times.
I watched the Green Lantern. Okay.
Now he's a billionaire.
Oh my God! I saw the Green Lantern in theaters. That was such a waste of money.
And now he's
that was a waste of my
guys.
parents' money. Thankfully, though.
Hi to Danny Leong who said hi Engadget, and I think we're about to wrap it up unless there's anything else, Ben.
So I mean. Danny Leong was talking about privacy issues and in AI search. I can tell you that I've just seen other people talking about that, and I've seen some unconfirmed reports that there are some big banks saying don't put any of our proprietary information into ChatGPT because it is not safe. But other than that kind of rumory stuff, it's a good thing to be aware of. Don't type your social security number into ChatGPT.
Type passwords into ChatGPT.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't ask ChatGPT to give you a password because I imagine that can be reverse engineered.
Okay. Last two things would be when we were talking about Married at First Sight. Dude named Charlie was like divorce at first paycheck, so that's pretty funny.
And then somebody else suggested another show called Divorce at Dawn.
The CF542, awesome. But I think that's about it, y'all.
Yep, I think we're good. So thank you to Julio Barrientos and Luke Brooks, who is our video team. They provide all the images and text and stuff and the fun Brady Bunch shot, the 3 sandwich shot that we have here. If you've stuck around this long, you know that we live in a world of algorithms better than the average person, you tech enthusiast. So rate us 5 stars on iTunes, rate us 5 stars on Google Podcasts. Tell a couple of friends about us, you tech enthusiasts. Just give us that in-person viral lift, and we'll see you next week.
Bye. Thanks for joining.